Hi folks, welcome to the Epochs of the Lotus Eaters, episode 11, where myself and Beau will be talking about the Year of the Four Emperors. Now, I don't know a huge amount about the Year of the Four Emperors, because it was one of those subjects that's incredibly complex, because there's a lot going on in, between 68 and 69 AD, so following the death of Nero, and then a cavalcade of chaos, I think is the best way to describe it, and no one particularly covering themselves in glory until Vespasian puts an end to it, as I understand it. But again, I have a very sort of surface level understanding of this bit, so I'm looking forward to being educated.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, it's one of my favourite periods. It's sort of like Rome on steroids in a way. Loads of things happen in a really condensed period. Like you say, so Nero tops himself in sort of 68, the summer of 68.
Because he gets declared an enemy of the state or something.
That's right, yeah. Eventually the Senate and the people and the army have had enough. Actually, it's the people out of all the three that actually don't hate him the most.
Yeah.
But we can talk about that in a moment.
But I was going to say that puts me in mind of like a sort of populist leader then, you know.
Yeah.
So we've got the condemnation of the aristocracy, but do we trust their opinion? I don't know. If I was living in Rome, I'm not sure I would, you know. But anyway.
Yeah, so Nero kills himself in 68, and then 69 is the year of the four emperors, ends up with Vespasian, who people might know is, rules for a long time, founds a dynasty that's sort of three emperors long, one of the more famous ones.
Was competent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose if we just kick off the story with Nero, because you could say it doesn't roll off the tongue as well, but you could say like the 18 months of the five emperors, but it just doesn't sound as good as the year of the four emperors.
Yeah, it sounds contained, doesn't it?
But you've got five emperors, including Nero and Vespasian, in that short space of time. So just to give a little bit of an overview on Nero, of course, he's known as possibly the most sadistic. There's a few that have sort of got a shout for the most. But he's sort of as an antichrist in many ways, an actual antichrist.
I mean, Caracalla was called the common enemy of mankind by Gibbon, wasn't he?
Right.
So, I mean, he must have been pretty bad.
The worst ones are sort of off the top of your head: Caligula, Nero, Domitian, Commodus, Caracalla.
There's quite a few.
Elagabalus. Yeah, there's a few. Yeah. But I think Nero is among the most sadistic. Because he just seems to really, really revel in the pain of others. A couple of the others, like Elagabalus or Caligula, may have been clinically insane, whereas Nero just seems to be just a horrible piece of work. Yeah. So he does rule for quite a long time, 14 odd years, Nero. And one of the reasons why, when historians look back at it, one of the reasons why he sort of lasted that long is that the Roman state was terrified of civil war. So you'd rather have a weirdo nutter at the top than a civil war. That's still better than a civil war.
Well, and within living memory, there would have been civil wars in Rome, wouldn't they?
Right, yeah.
So it was 100 years before that Caesar had initiated the civil war. So you can see why it looms large in their thoughts.
Absolutely.
And especially when you have such a vast empire as Rome had at this time, and huge numbers of soldiers just wandering around. I mean, you don't want a civil war.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes back further than that. You've got sort of the Marian-Sullan civil wars that lead almost straight into the Caesar-Pompey days, which lead straight into the Augustus Mark Antony days, and it only ends with the Actium in 31 BC. So you've got ages of civil war there that really ripped apart. Well, it destroyed the Republic, didn't it? Just destroyed the Republic. So it seems that why would you put up with someone like Tiberius or Caligula?
Because stability.
Because even though they might be sort of butchering the upper classes, it's still kind of better for Rome to sort of let them do that.
I'm just a Roman peasant. I don't care what the upper classes do to each other. I've got a street to sweep or something like that.
Exactly, yeah. And a lot of them, like Nero, like we hinted at a minute ago, did a lot of things, made a lot of reforms that were in the favour of sort of the common man, or the pleb.
So you're saying that Nero was the Trump of his day and has been maligned by the upper class historians?
I wouldn't say that exactly, but there's something. There's something you could say there.
But we're not Nero simps here, I promise.
In the end, apart from anything else, I mean, some people might not know quite how bad Nero was, but I mean, he murdered his mum famously, but he actually extinguished every single member of his own family, the Julio-Claudian dynasty.
I didn't realise it was quite that extensive.
Yeah, every single one. So when he finally kills himself, there's no one left. There's literally no one left in the Julio-Claudian dynasty to take over.
And everyone's probably like, thank God.
Yeah. I mean, he killed, he did lots and lots of terrible things. One of the things that sort of perhaps you could point to is sort of one of the last straws,
Yeah.
was that he always wanted more money. Well, most rulers want more money. And so he passed some sort of law which said when rich people die, their estate passes to him. Now right there, that's really dodgy ground. You're
That must have
looking
been a
at
popular
revolts.
proposal.
Yeah, right. And then there was a great, I say great, there was a pretty good BBC drama a fair few years ago with Michael Sheen as Nero. Quite low budget, but very good acting. I thought very, very well put together. And there's a bit in that which puts it really well. At one point, Nero's sort of leader of the Praetorian Guard, I think it was Tigellinus, he says that we can't get any more money. We've taken the estates of everyone rich that's dying. And Nero says, well, make them die. We need more money, make them die. And so that gives you a taste for Nero. Just insane, well, maybe not clinically insane, but just mental,
Well, a power-mad dictator.
Yeah, drunk on power, absolutely drunk on power. And so in the end, one of the generals, a guy called Vindex, who's in charge, sort of governor of Gaul, revolts against Nero. And maybe we could do, just before we go on, do a quick rundown of sort of the major players in the army at this time, because they sort of all become important. So there's a guy called Vitellius, who's a general up on the Rhine, sort of in charge of some of the German legions, who are considered, or are sort of the most veteran, kind of the hardest legions around
when
at
we
the
say
moment.
German legions, just to be clear, we're not saying legions of Germans.
No, they're Roman legions just on the border with Germany.
Yeah.
So Vitellius is up there, and then you've got Vindex in Gaul. In Spain is a guy called Galba, who's also probably one of the most prestigious ones. And then out in the east, you've got Vespasian, who in like 67, so a couple of years before this, or a year or so before this, there's a massive Jewish revolt out in Judea, and Nero gives him a sort of a special command to be in control of everything out in the east to put this down. And it's not the end of the Jewish revolts. I mean, his son Titus.
Hadrian,
His son Titus storms Jerusalem and burns it to the ground, and it still goes on into the age of Hadrian, which is like decades and decades after this. So first of all, Nero brought Vespasian out of retirement because he was just known as the most competent around. So he brings him out of retirement, puts him in North Africa, and then when the Jewish revolt happens, he sends. It's sort of the obvious thing, but. One other little detail, just to give you a feeling for Nero. Even though Vespasian is the most competent, sort of the best general, he gets sort of put out of favour with Nero because he didn't like Nero's lyre playing. So he's like the most competent guy in the empire, but you didn't like how I played the lyre, so you're out of favour. I mean, it's
this speaks to Nero as a character, doesn't it? Because what weren't Nero's last words something like, "Oh, what an artist the world is losing in me."
Yeah, it was among his last words. It depends how you translate it. I've actually got it here. Dead and so great an artist was this particular translation. And they were among his last words.
Yeah, and so Nero's opinion of his lyre playing is probably a lot higher than everyone else's opinion, if Vespasian's critique is to judge by.
And his ability to race chariots and sing, all of these things are very scandalous for an emperor to do. You just don't do that. Singing and playing the lyre is very lowly. It's what prostitutes do, really.
I was about to say, it's what prostitutes do. Yeah, exactly.
So anyone of any sort of noble birth just doesn't do that. And for the emperor himself to do it, well,
it's disgusting.
It's sort of
improper.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And yet he sort of insisted on it. And if you sort of fell asleep or didn't clap loud enough or anything like that, you're in real trouble and you might get executed.
Yeah, actual sort of Stalinist sort of position on this.
Yeah. Like Vespasian was kind of lucky, some have said, to not be executed for not enjoying Nero's lyre playing. So anyway, in the end, Vindex, the governor of Gaul, declares that he's going to revolt against Nero. And but he doesn't sort of try and declare himself emperor. He sends a letter to Galba, who's in Spain, who's sort of probably the most prestigious. He might not be the most powerful out and out in terms of legions under his command. That's Vespasian. But he's sort of one of the oldest and the most, like I say, just got the most gravitas, really. Galba.
He's established.
Absolutely. And he's known as like a disciplinarian. He's known as a safe pair of hands, really. So Vindex sends a letter to Galba saying, I'm going to revolt against Nero, and we want you to sort of take the diadem. We want you to be emperor next. And apparently Galba says, okay, great. He's sort of scared. He does say he's scared, but he goes with it. Nero, when Nero first hears about this, the revolt of Vindex, he just fobs it off. Doesn't seem to care. Doesn't really react or anything. Just carries about his day as though nothing's happened. Which is, that's weird, isn't it? A little bit weird.
Yeah, but you'd expect these people to be kind of disconnected from reality, so...
Yeah, well, he is absolutely disconnected from reality. It says he goes about his daily business of just being lazy and venal and cruel to everyone around him. And then he gets more reports like later that day, and it says for days Nero doesn't really do anything or take it seriously. Which is odd.
Yeah.
And then even when it does become clear that because actually Vindex gets defeated in battle pretty quickly, some of the Germanic legions decide to be loyal to Nero, at least for a short period of time. They come down, they beat Vindex real quick in a battle, but the wheel's already in motion. Even though it sort of really hurts Galba's claim, he still just keeps marching towards Rome. And anyway, once it becomes clear to Nero or everyone in Rome that there really are legions going to march towards Rome and Nero's in a tight spot now, he doesn't do the things needed. He gets a bunch of his own prostitutes together and makes them have short hair like a man and gives them shields like Amazons. Like he's gonna your face says it all. Like what the hell?
Why aren't you raising men, Nero?
Yeah, right. I mean, he's just not doing the right things. At one point, when it's sort of getting really close, it seems like he might only have a few days or a week or so left or something. Yeah. He says to the Senate, "What I shall do." This is Nero in a nutshell. What I shall do is go before the legions, and I shall weep.
Look, that worked for Julius Caesar, but it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
That's not going to work for you.
Yeah. I shall weep before them. I shall weep and weep, and they'll be putty in my hands, and then I shall sing. And it'll all be over because my singing's that good.
That's very optimistic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also just, completely divorced from reality, isn't
totally.
It, again? So I suppose just to cut it short a bit, sort of the end of Nero, it does become, well, in the end, the Senate try him in absentia. He's found guilty for sort of crimes against the state, crimes against the people, and he's sentenced to death in absentia. So it's really over for Nero at that point.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.